think a lot of women have had that feeling of knowing something wasn't right, but then questioning themselves because an expert told them otherwise, right?
There are alternatives, and it is expensive, but what's more expensive is being sick. And that is a reality for many Americans who are chronically ill in this country. There's two options. You're either spending that money on medical bills and doctors and medicine, or you're spending the money on a healthier lifestyle and healthier food and organic and gluten-free and all the stuff. But I would rather option B of the healthier things that's better for everybody in our family than option A that's just putting money into the sick industry, which America is making too much money on, to be honest with you. I can't buy organic, or I can't go out and buy all these specialty products. My challenge to them is always, but you can control what you don't buy. Because even if we can't always buy the best, we can stop buying the worst. You can stop buying the stuff with the dyes and all of the artificial ingredients. Get one of the apps, scan your whole pantry, and look at what you're putting into your body. And even if you can't always buy the best, don't buy the worst, because that in itself is an improvement. If you're eliminating the things that are really bad and then just making small improvements in the things that you do buy. So even if you can just eliminate the Frankenstein foods, you're on your way to being healthier.
What's one hill that you're willing to die on? You're like, if you don't do anything, this one thing is what you need to do or eliminate.
There's just no reason to buy products with dyes.
When all of this is over and you look back, what do you hope your son learned from watching his mom?
I think that he's really going to see just how much I fought for him.
Lynn House is here on Rebel Roots today. She is a published author, health advocate, and fierce, devoted mother who used her creativity to reimagine her family's lifestyle when her son developed an unexplained health symptoms. Today, she's passionate about empowering others to think differently, seek root causes, and believe that healing is possible, even in life's most challenging moments. Just want to give you a warm Rebel Roots welcome, Jamie.
Thank you.
And, that's just a short intro. And we were just kind of talking offline about everything else that you do. And we're going to dive right into this. But I love to get the audience to know who Jamie is. And I always kind of challenge everyone, hey, 12-year-old Jamie, is she showing up today in your life? Or can you look back on your childhood and see who you were supposed to become? Or, how does that, tell me about that.
So, well, thank you so much for having me. My journey has been anything but conventional. I grew up in a small town. I was raised on meat and potatoes, and all surrounded by farmland. Really in the 80s and 90s. And I will say, even though my childhood was nothing exciting, I can at least say the one thing my parents did right was they raised us on home cooked meals. And if there's anything that I have taken away from my childhood and 12-year-old Jamie, it was the value of home cooked meals and not, endless carry out or frozen dinners or, stuff that's just not fresh. And that was how my mom was raised. And so, of course, I just kind of took that baton and carried it forward. And I really value sitting down at the table and eating meals, which I know in the American culture is not easy for full-time working parents, rushing to sports, rushing to dance, rushing to who even knows what. I mean, we're just so busy nowadays that I realize that is not an easy thing to do. So I am proud that I have achieved it.
No, and I think too with that is the mom guilt, right? Did your mom, was she a stay-home mom to put the food on the table every day, or does she have a career?
So my mom was very lucky. She was working full-time, but she worked 7 to 3, which was pretty much the perfect schedule that a mom can have. My dad took us to school or got us on the bus, and my mom was home by 3:30 making dinner. So she really had the best of both worlds because she got out of the house and she worked, but she was also home to get the meatloaf in the oven or to prep the mashed potatoes from scratch. And that was important to her. But the reality is my parents also didn't have a lot of money. And so eating out is expensive. That wasn't a luxury that we even had. Even buying prepackaged things from Sam's, those kinds of things add up. And cooking from scratch was just cheaper. And so that was certainly a reason. And going out to eat was a special occasion, or was like the thing you do on like a Friday or a Saturday night. And that made us appreciate it. And I, as an adult, can appreciate that. And seeing my own kids actually like feel like it's special when we go out to eat. I like that, rather than it just being like, oh, it's like another Tuesday and we're just going out and getting, Chick-fil-A. And trust me, I have actually quite a few like single mom friends, mom friends who really do like struggle with the guilt and trying to figure out like what they can make in the crock pot or what they can prep in advance to get home. And it is not easy by any means. And just food prep in itself, when I see all the Instagram videos with like all the little glass containers for every day of the week, I'm like, I don't think I'm that person. I'm not somebody who can think that far in advance. And I certainly feel like keeping it basic is about the easiest way to do it without like breaking your back, and can still be, accessible to someone who has had a long work day.
So tell me, because right now, are you, we're going to get into why you became a wellness coach in just a minute, but is that your full-time job now, is coaching? Jamie, are you?
Yeah. So when we moved here from California, we had kind of made a huge lifestyle change of what do we want our life to be? Do we want to be like on the hamster wheel, my husband and I at work, sitting on the freeway, having babysitters with the kids, like basically Monday through Friday? Or do we want to change our lifestyle, do some things differently, and have me able to be at home with the kids? So those were very specific choices that we made to sort of downsize our lives for the things that we wanted. And so for the first few years, I was just home with the kids. I was trying to do some different side hustles, which wasn't just not working out because the kids were too young. And then I was always like, well, I'm going to go back to work after my youngest is in kindergarten. And then my youngest was in kindergarten and it was COVID. So then it was like, well, when COVID is over. And so I kind of kept kicking the can. And then I've had so many wonderful women who I know who have older children who kept telling me, like, you think they need you when they're little, but they actually need you more when they're older, which I couldn't believe. And now I continue to see, like, they're saying more than ever, teenagers need their parents because of the conversations and the social pressures and the ways that they need you differently than they did when they were 3 and 4. So I think I find it an interesting time in my life where I have really structured and sacrificed my career to be available for them. But the way I see it is like, it's like 18 years with the kids. And then, for my son, that's only 6 more years and he'll be out of the house and I'll be able to go off and do my thing. So this time in my life, I am doing health coaching, I'm writing, and my husband's an entrepreneur. So I support him and our family business and just really have a lot of flexibility for whatever it is that comes up. And we've designed our life to be that way because you do have to make choices and sacrifices, which is what we've done for, to make sure that our priorities can be achieved.
What do you think has been one of the biggest sacrifices that you've made to make this this lifestyle for you?
As a mom, I always said I was going to hold on to my identity. Yeah. And I do feel like I've done that, but I know that I'm like capable of so much more career-wise than what I have achieved so far. And that's a big reason why I started writing, because I am just such a creative person and I needed a creative outlet. And that kind of having any outlet at all is something that, like, if I don't have it, I am sacrificing that part of me, that part of my brain, that part of my like abilities that I'm not using. Of course, creativity, I can use it in all aspects of life, right? Like I'm creative with what I'm cooking. I'm creative in the ways that we have to, figure out life and scheduling and, planning of travel and just the ways that I show up for my family. But career-wise, I wish that I was in some type of even part-time position where I'm able to like use my full skills that I know that I can contribute. But that time is coming for me. It's just a matter of when I feel like ready to do it. And I know, people like to say, oh, you're never ready. But I do feel like this isn't the right time. And when the right time is here, like I will know it. And I'm content in what I am doing right now because I'm able to at least create and, write books. And that is my current endeavor as I also do some coaching on the side.
All right. So let's get into this book. You wrote your first, I'm going to say this right, fictional, correct, book.
Yes.
So talk to me. Everyone's been talking about non-fictional and fictional. I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm going to mess this up today on the podcast. And it's a fictional book. And I had just met you, and I think you were right at the end of writing this. I think you were getting ready to publish this. And so kind of tell me, where did you get the creative story for this? Was this back in does this have anything to do with your small town back at home? Or is this like, tell me how you got here with this story.
So here is my book.
Oh, I love it.
It is definitely fictional because it's magical realism, and it definitely does take place in a small town, which, I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania. So if there's one thing I know, it's definitely small towns. But it centers around a character who was kind of inspired by someone in my life who was struggling, and my love for her really came out when I was shaping this character, because the character, as many people can relate to, she's a young woman who's just lost her way, and she's just kind of stuck in life and doesn't really have any direction. And she works in a thrift shop in a small town in New Jersey. And through an enchanted statue, she gets the ability to relive the lives of thrift shop clothing items that have come into the store on a certain day. And that's kind of where some of the dark and spicy stuff comes in, because she's going into these different people's lives in this small town, people who she would have some of them who she would have expected had everything, and others who she would have judged as, being whatever, drug addicts or deadbeats. And she sees that nothing is what it looks like on the surface. The trophy wife has all of her own skeletons in the closet. And certainly anyone on the streets has their own, rich, heartbreaking story. And she lives through these people and sees where they're at the last time they wore these clothing items, and herself begins to grow as a person and have sympathy for all of the challenges that others have faced, and realize it's not just her. She's not the only one who's lost. She's not the only one who doesn't know who they are. Everyone has these challenges. And then she witnesses the night a local girl goes missing, and she becomes the only one who can solve the crime. And this gives her the purpose that she needs in her life to move forward and push herself out of her comfort zone to find this missing girl, or else she's just going to be one of the many who are never found. And so it has high stakes in that way. And you're along for the ride as she gets to live through all these different female characters who are nuanced and surprising, and who you want to some you want to love, some you want to hate, some you love and hate at the same time. So
I love how you just lit up on screen talking about this book. I mean, I can definitely see how this is your passion, your joy, the creative outlet on this. What was one of the biggest challenges writing this book? If someone's out there listening and they're like, should I write a book? What would you tell them, and what not to tell them?
Oh gosh, I just learned so much along the way that I didn't know. I didn't outline it all and have this really clean plan, which is what you're supposed to do. I just had all this heart and passion. And because of some of my real life challenges I was going through, this was my escape. This book was how I distracted my mind and kept my own anxiety at bay. And I poured all of those emotions and all of my energy into this book and into these fictional characters and their challenges. And it's funny because my main character, Fiona, every time she goes into one of these characters' lives, she's escaping. And as I was writing this, I was escaping. So it was very full circle. And even though it is kind of in a psychological thriller category, it's really not it's not a full-on thriller. You know, I feel like there's a little drama, there's lightheartedness, there's comedy, and really it's a kind of an older coming of age story about a, you know, late 20s young woman who just is finding herself. And so it's not like a slasher, a purely commercial thriller where the protagonist doesn't grow. Like there's a lot of like blossoming that happens. And so anyone who's writing, you have to have your reason. Of course, every genre is different and the standards for every genre are different. But if you have passion for what you're doing, for the readers that you're writing for the characters that you're creating, you can't do it without passion, though. I feel like your reader will know that maybe you were doing it for the money or for your publisher, or you lost the reason why you were doing it. And I do feel like I read books like that. I'm like, oh, the first book was great, but the next one, you know, felt like, you know, like they kind of lost something as a writer. So that's the most important thing, I feel like, is just keep in mind why you're writing the story that you're writing. And if you're bored writing it, your reader will be bored reading it. That's one thing that I have noticed when I'm getting to a part and I'm like, wow, this is boring to write. I'm like, this is absolutely going to be boring to read.
That's a great insight. If it's boring for you to write, then definitely the reader is not going to enjoy it either. And then I just kind of heard you say, I'm getting ready to write a second book. Do you already have a storyline for the second one?
I do. And I'm currently a little stuck. I'm like a quarter of the way through, and it's a fantastic character. So I will not give up on her. I have it plotted out, but the execution, like sometimes you just have to take a break because it's just not like flowing out of me like the way the first book did. But it is a satire, and it's fun and it's funny, and it's just a different way of looking at similar issues as my first book, right? Like identity, finding our place in the world, finding our purpose. And this, you know, this is just kind of a fanatical mom character who doesn't know like where she fits in. And that's okay. And she's going to find out like along the way, like where she wants to belong. You know, sometimes we try so hard to belong, and then we find our way into the crowd and realize we actually don't even want to be liked by those people because they're not our people. So she's kind of going to be finding that out in a small town of interesting characters as she makes her way through this story. So hopefully my goal is to finish it by the end of the year, at least the first draft.
Oh, shoot. That's like coming up. Like we're good.
I know, you're telling me.
No stress. It's okay. It'll come. Well, we had connected last year, and then you kind of took a break. Obviously, so many of my stories start out, I met them in Toastmasters. And Toastmasters, again, if you have not checked that out in your local town, please check it out. It's such a great group. We have one of the most amazing groups that we were, and Jamie was part of that last year, and then she took the summer off. She just recently joined back, and me and her had roles this past week in there, and I just told her, I was like, man, I said, I don't know what you have done, but the Jamie that's came back on the second round, you're just so much more full of life. You had a smile on your face. You seemed like you just were a little bit lighter. Your frequency was up. And that was not the case the first time we met, back in probably like almost a year ago, I would think, right? When we met, and you're just a little bit heavier, but then you kind of let me know what you were going through. And I just want you to share your story.
So we had a little like messed up connection there, but I know that where you were going with your question. So I'm going to pick up from there. Last year, really like for 3 years now, I've been like reinventing what my family and what our lifestyle and what our home looks like, because my son had some kind of unexplained symptoms that came up that doctors just didn't have any answers for. And that really started, like I was never interested in health or food as medicine or any of this type of stuff until I was in this situation. And really it's been going on for 3 years, but it's been a roller coaster of ups and downs and improvements and setbacks. And really came into this space and didn't know very much, and became a health coach, finished that 2 years ago. But last year was just kind of a heavy year, because sometimes you think, when you're trying to solve these different medical mysteries, like you think that, like, okay, like this is going to be the fix, like everything's going to be okay. And then we suffered a setback. And I mean, all the while, like he'd been doing amazing in a million ways, but there was just these things that were sort of these neurological related spells that were coming up that neurologists didn't have any explanation for. And if it was up to them, we would just put him on medicine. But I just knew, like, medicine comes at a cost as well. And so we had to make hard decisions about trying different dietary restrictions and just, doing more lifestyle changes to see if we could help his body, while we did tests with more functional health doctors and kind of went a different direction from what the conventional way is, which is sort of the Band-Aid approach.
And I was telling her before we hit record, I was like, this is so rebel. And this is what this podcast is about. It's just like pushing what someone tells us to do, because that's the only way that they know, and not given other options to do that. And I think a lot of women have had that feeling of knowing something wasn't right, but then questioning themselves because an expert told them otherwise, right? Do you ever think, like, going through this process and picking another way with unconventional medicine, did you ever have a point where you're like, started, I guess, questioning your intuition on this decision? Or did you always know in your gut, Jamie, that no, this is the way that we need to go? This is how I'm going to treat my son, Or was there a moment there you're like, shoot, did I make the wrong decision on this?
To be honest with you, I never had second thoughts, because when you start doing the research on these medicines, you see all of the side effects. And when you bring those types of things up to the doctors, their response is, well, it's generally well tolerated. Okay, well, that just isn't like a good enough response to me. So you dig a little bit deeper, and then you bring up the specific side effects. And then they say, oh, well, if that happens, we have a medicine for that. And then you're just like, I'm running out of here, because when okay, I'm going to start this, and then if XYZ happens, then I have to start this. And then before you know it, you've got 4 different pills you're taking. And when that's like a 10-year-old, starts getting troublesome. And then you're looking at other things that can be caused in the body from these medicines, such as deficiencies and other ways that the body can be impacted, not by the original thing that you were treating, but now by the medicines themselves. Becomes a very, very dark rabbit hole. And my husband and I were educated enough to know that was not a rabbit hole we were going to go down. And well, I mean, luckily we've met so many different holistic functional health people. And also I just basically read every book, followed every Instagram handle. Now I'm using AI. We have so much information at our fingertips that when you start digging, I mean, it's scary is what it is, because, you start getting the apps where you scan the food labels and you see all of the ingredients that are in these foods and what every ingredient does. And you go down all of the lists of things in your home that could be making you sick, all the fake fragrances and the candles and the laundry detergent. I mean, it's enough to make you crazy for sure. And I feel like that's where a lot of people they're just like, oh, it's just too much. But you don't have to do it all at once. Like we knew, okay, we're going to take this approach and we're going to just one by one eliminate things that we know we can improve. Like, I don't have to buy candles. I don't need to have air fresheners. I don't need to have processed stuff. There are alternatives, and it is expensive, but what's more expensive is being sick. And that is a reality for many Americans who are chronically ill in this country. There's 2 options. You're either spending that money on medical bills and doctors and medicine, or you're spending the money on a healthier lifestyle and healthier food and organic and gluten-free and all the stuff But I would rather option B of the healthier things that's better for everybody in our family than option A that's just kind of putting money into this sick industry, which America is making too much money on, to be honest with you.
Yes. I mean, again, I feel like some of our things are not cured because, again, some pockets are getting deep on that, you know? And the thing I think is so commendable with you is that you designed your whole career around this. I mean, you became a health coach in order to understand something that was going on in your family with medicine. And I think that is so cool to do that, you know, and diving into that. And what was the decision making on that? I mean, were you like, okay, my answers are not getting fixed. He's not getting better. And I'm not going to go down the path that they're suggesting. And so you take your own matter into your hands and you go get certified as a wellness coach so that you can start almost diagnosing your son on your own.
Well, thank you. I am very determined. That is one thing that is still 12-year-old me. I will always break the mold and do the thing differently despite naysayers, because when I have my mindset on something. And I mean, when this happened 3.5 years ago, which doesn't feel like that long ago, but like in Wilmington time, it was a lot because Wilmington's grown so much in 3.5 years. But when we started this journey, there wasn't hardly any functional health practitioners. In those years, there have been more that I have found that have opened practices. But now, like, I am so far along in everything I've learned in my journey that when I call up somebody like that, I feel like because I'm so invested in everything I know about my son, in a way, I know more than they do about the situation because every situation is so nuanced. And if they haven't seen a case like ours before, I mean, really, I'm informing them rather than them informing me. So becoming the health coach really put it in kind of the ball in our court to where I could become a vendor basically of functional health testing. So I can order our tests with no markup, which has been a game changer because functional health tests are very helpful to look at gut health, oxidative stress, toxins, all these different things that are real data. Like, you're not just speculating from the outside of like what's going on in your body. You're getting real measurable data that you can use to figure out supplements and figure out dietary restrictions. And I like things that can be measured. And so that has been very helpful. And I'm happy that, you know, anybody that I work with, I can do that for them because we can all spend all day long speculating. Oh, we just need to give up this or give up that. But without data of what's going on inside the body, it's kind of useless and a waste of money, in my opinion.
If someone is out there listening right now and they have themselves or maybe a family member that is sick, what's one thing that you're like, you need to ask this question or you need to do this thing and to start the journey that you kind of went down?
Oh, I think it really depends on what the symptoms are, right? I will say medicine is going to change because AI, the whole AI model, doesn't matter if you're using ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. If you go on there and you ask for like, some of them you can actually say like, I want holistic or like functional health advice versus conventional. So you can program it. You put in your symptoms into the AI model. AI can already start helping you diagnose or already give you a path of things that you need to be looking at to better your health, whether it be supplements you could consider. Of course, they're not going to tell you the dosage and, you know, specifics without telling you to, ask a doctor. But I mean, tests that you could order. It is going to change medicine in a way that like doctors they're going to have to start asking better questions and being more open-minded because people aren't going to need them anymore because AI is so smart. So I would say like, if you are having symptoms, the first thing you can do is open up your phone and Google, because Google is way too much weeding through and sorting out and, AI is so very smart already, and it's going to keep getting smarter that you can put in your symptoms and kind of start from there. So if you do pick up the phone and call a doctor or a functional health person or a health coach or whomever you might call, you can already give them some more like intelligent information that you gathered on your own that can start them in a direction to help you, which I really think is valuable. And I mean, I have been using it. I have mixed feelings about AI and robots taking over, but I will say from a medical standpoint, it is amazing what it can do. And the fact that it's free is kind of dangerous for the medical industry, but in a good way, because I hope it sets higher standards of the care that we're getting when we go to the doctor, because right now it's really not, it's often not accessible for people because they just can't afford to go to all these specialists, you know, whether it be a regular doctor or a neurologist or a gastroenterologist or all of these different people who may or may not be able to help you. Like a lot of people just don't even have the money. So if you can get some idea of what you're dealing with from AI and then go from there, at least you can narrow down a human being who can help you in whatever your goal is.
I think, again, you have all the tools in your hand, you know, and if you're not going into these appointments or going into these conversations with a little bit of knowledge on your end to ask the correct questions, then it's almost a shame on you at this point in this technology day and age. So I think that's like the greatest advice you can, you know, like do your research on your own and then go in there with prepared questions. And don't go in there, you know, blindly. So before we went in there blindly and we just had to, the doctor was the expert, right? And we just had to trust that opinion. But I do believe exactly, I agree with you 100% that the AI is going to change, you know, the direction of this. And they're going to have to step their game up because everyone's going to go in there a little bit more educated than what they, you know, were before. And so you're coaching clients now. Like, okay, so you did get the certification for a family, right? And to help your son, but you're taking on clients now too.
Yes. So my lab, I work with Vibrant Wellness, which is the functional health lab. And I have found that it's, you know, you want to work with clients who are really committed to finding answers and following through with practical ways that, you know, they can help themselves. And so it does take a lot of willpower. It does take a lot of sacrifice because a lot of times a lot of stuff comes down to issues in the gut. You know, that's what drives a lot of people to start like seeking answers. Because when you aren't able to like eat or drink, or you just feel badly, like you can't, it kind of affects everything you're doing in your life. So I feel like being able to give people some guidance and then hold them accountable to making better choices is huge. And people who, you know, feel like, oh, well, I don't have the money to do any of this. Like I can't buy organic or I can't go out and buy all these specialty products. My challenge to them is always, but you can control what you don't buy. Because even if we can't always buy the best, we can stop buying the worst. You know, you can stop buying the stuff with the dyes and all of the artificial ingredients. Get one of the apps, scan your whole pantry and look at like what you're putting into your body. And even if you can't always buy the best, don't buy the worst, you know, because that in itself is an improvement. If you're eliminating the things that are really bad and then just, you know, making small improvements in the things that you do buy. And really, like, I feel like eating whole foods is always just the easiest, most straightforward way to tell people how to eat. Like fruits and vegetables and real proteins and, you know, limited grains. Like these are the kinds of things we learned as kids, right? Or of course, I feel like back then the food pyramid, like the whole bottom was carbs. Like we don't need that many carbs, but we do know if God made it, it was made for our bodies. And if it's in a can or in a box, God didn't make it. It's, you know, it's some kind of artificially, you know, I call it Frankenstein food. You know, somebody made it in a lab and it's probably not good for you. So even if you can just eliminate the Frankenstein foods, you're on your way to being healthier.
What's one hill that you're willing to die on? You're like, if you don't do anything, this one thing is what you need to do or eliminate.
Ooh. I think it really depends on what your symptoms are. But as a mom, And I know that this is a hard one. As a mom, like there's just no reason to buy products with dyes. And I know that's hard because everybody does it and they think like, oh, my kid's fine. They're not affected by dyes. But you might not even know how affected they are because they've been eating them since they were like 2. And I did find that my son was sensitive to red 40. And even before I knew anything about this stuff, I'm like, I don't want him eating red products because he gets so hyper. And over the years, like I've looked back and thought, he is more sensitive. But kids that suffer with ADD, ADHD, anxiety, brain fog, forgetfulness, all these different neuro-related things, like dyes are related to all of those things. And they say like pretty much all of the dyes stay in your body 2 to 3 days after you eat them. And if you're buying like everyday products like Doritos and candy and cookies, all the processed stuff, unless you're trying to get the dye-free version, it's just loaded with dyes. And I have like talked to parents who have taken their kids, just not bought the things with dyes. The Gatorade, the Skittles, the Cheez-Its, all the things in the lunch boxes. And they're like, it is a different child. And I do think that people underestimate because what they see as normal, is really not normal. And I feel like there's a big difference between normal and typical. So there's a certain typical behavior that we get from say toddlers, for instance. But that doesn't mean that it's normal. And I do feel like some of the early developmental things that we see with hyperactivity and kids throwing, the tantrums, we're like, oh, well, that's normal. But is it? It's also timed around when kids start eating all of the processed foods like goldfish and all of the things coming off of formula and breast milk. Their early foods are often tied with challenging behavior. So is it partially the food? Certainly it's worth considering.
Just want to ask, so how's your son doing as of today?
Fantastic. We are gluten-free, so that is a very difficult lifestyle, especially socially, at baseball stadiums, at birthday parties, at school parties, glutinous pizza, glutinous birthday cake, all of those things, it stinks. You just kind of get used to it. Like any kid with food sensitivities or allergies, it just becomes a part of your expectations when you go into a social setting where you can't eat all the regular food. But he's doing fantastic. I feel like we've really of course we're faith-filled people. So all of our prayers are just they're coming to fruition. And God has been just guiding us all along with what we've been doing. And we have had just total faith in the process and have been very just loyal to the decisions that we've made and unwavering to very specific things relating to diet and sleep and the things that we do and the things that we don't do. And I think that everything combined has really supported his body through this unknown, time of where we didn't know what the future was going to hold, and none of us do. But fortunately, he's doing amazing and thriving and athletic and a great student, and hopefully he just keeps, growing into a strong, healthy young man.
And you said that, again, with a child with a food restriction, whether it's gluten, dairy, peanuts, or all that, there is a lot of things around the kids' activities that do that. What's a piece of advice that you can tell a mom out there that is dealing with the food restrictions for the child who feels left out because of it?
I feel like for the child at least for my son, I can see, for the child who's used to it, they show up knowing okay, I can't have this. Sometimes it's the other children that need to be trained who are less sensitive than they really could be. They think that because you have a special accommodation, a gluten-free cupcake, that somehow you're special and they'll bring attention to it. Or you have your own little gluten-free pizza and it's oh, well, how did you get that? And it's it's like pointing out and making the person who's already different and sensitive about it feel even more self-conscious. You know, we're all different, and all we can really do is just support each other and just recognize, like, hey, we've all got challenges. We've all got things that make us different. And I feel like he has become comfortable with whatever it is he needs to eat, but it's the sensitivity of others, or the insensitivity, that can be hard, because you don't want to like be feeling different. And that's not just with food, that's with anything, right? Like anytime we notice somebody is different, we don't want to make them feel worse. We just want to treat them normal, because we all deserve a certain degree of respect and dignity, regardless of what our challenges are.
What's a health trend that you're loving at the moment? Do you have any trends that you're like, yeah, this one needs to stick around for a little bit?
Oh, gosh. So many health trends are just like a regular part of my life that I'm like, wait, this is a trend now. Like, congratulations, everybody. You're on board. I mean, being gluten-free is having its moment. Like, I feel like everywhere we go, other people are gluten-free. It isn't really a full-on health trend yet. Let's see. Other health trends. That's a bit of a more challenging one.
I know we always talk about what's bad, right? And besides Whole Foods and all of that, you know, like we sometimes forget to talk about like what's good, you know? And so it's a hard question.
I think it's really, you know, I don't know that I'm not somebody who's totally sober, but I, you know, drink casually. My husband, however, is sober. He does not drink at all. And not drinking is really having its moment. I mean, all of the mocktails, all of the options at restaurants that are like cocktails, but like they're fun, you know, it's like virgin drinks are having a moment, and they're not cheaper. I'll tell you that. It's like a mocktail still like $10, which always cracks me up, because
like, what's in it?
You know, it's like, I don't know, spritzer and like lime and mints. It's not like it costs that much money, but they make it look pretty and they make you feel like you fit in. And again, like anytime you can feel like you're not being left out, and you can have a pretty drink in your hand and feel like you fit in with your friends, that's what you're paying for. And I do think that that's, you know, maybe it's a worthy cause. And even if it's $10, like you can still sit at the table and have your drink that looks like a margarita, but it doesn't have tequila. And I've heard that like a lot fewer young people are drinking. You know, there's certainly a trend in that direction. The healthiest health guru people, I mean, they all say alcohol, of course, we know it's bad for our liver, it's bad for our brains, it's bad for our guts. It's not like it's good for us. And that is one that I haven't completely sacrificed, but I've taken so many toxins out of my life that every now and then I still need to have a margarita.
No, and it's crazy because this is the second time I've heard of this, because obviously we have a wedding venue, and we were kind of on our consulting call today, and sober weddings is the new trend for 2027. So that's like big trend coming up, sober weddings.
Well, you know what? I think that the industry is definitely booming. You wouldn't believe how many different kinds of beers. There's non-alcoholic wine. And there's entire companies committed to showing up as like a wedding vendor with virgin drinks that taste, you know, like a Moscow Mule or like a margarita. I think that it is going to become a very profitable industry. And at the end of the day, like nobody wants a bunch of drunk people ruining their wedding. So it actually kind of makes sense if if the bride and groom, or even just one of them, doesn't drink, you don't necessarily want all your friends and everybody like super drunk, and it's your special day. You can do whatever you want. And especially when you can get great, like non-alcoholic beer that still is refreshing and there's alternatives. It's really interesting. It's having its moment, and maybe it's here to stay. Maybe it won't be a moment, but just become a normal part of our society.
All right. I got a couple of not quick fires, but just like some things I want you to finish. Finish this sentence. Healing starts with
noticing that something's wrong.
Finish the sentence. Being a good mom does not mean
sacrificing yourself.
Love that. I feel most like myself when
I'm writing.
And what's the healthiest thing you do that has nothing to do with food?
You know what? This is like a total product plug. Like, I should get paid, but I use Madison Reed non-toxic hair dye. which has been like a total, like, look at my hair. It's like a game changer. I don't have to sit in a salon for 3 hours getting my hair bleached and breathing in all the fumes. This is Madison Reed, and it's made in Europe. It ships directly to your house, and it is like high quality ingredients that makes your hair healthier rather than destroying it with all of the like ammonia and peroxide and whatever that's in like these regular dyes. It's faster. It's cheaper. I'm like, maybe they can put me on their box after this plug, because it has been such a game changer for me beauty wise, because I can control, which is kind of the name of my game, right? I'm kind of a control freak. Anything I can control, I like, and I can control when I do my hair, and it's better for me, which, like, if you think about all of the dye and like it covering your whole scalp every 6 or 7 weeks, like I just got like cringe thinking about it. So I'm totally happy, and my hair's looking fresh right now. It looks
really fresh. I love it. I even said before, I'm like, man, you look really good today. All right. Final question. You spent so much energy fighting for your son's health. I mean, you even chose a career path to do that. When all of this is over and you look back, what do you hope your son learned from watching his mom?
I think that he's really going to see just how much I fought for him. I hope that he does, at least. We don't know what kids are going to remember. You know, they say that you don't always remember what someone said or did, but you know how it made you feel. And I think that we've always made him feel that everything was just going to be okay. Like we were going to figure it out, and that it was all just going to be all right. And I think that he will look back and see all the things that we did, and the way that we changed our diet, and the way that we accommodated him through our family's choices. And I think that he's going to be really grateful. And, you know, he's so athletic. I say that he already has like a Tom Brady diet, because like when you become a big athlete, you have to be so on top of diet with all like the workout, you know, that you're doing to build your muscle and to just be really athletic. Like he's already well on his way to his very selective diet that he will need if he continues to be the athlete that he wants to be. And he's starting now at 12. And that's going to say a lot, because most kids, you know, they're not necessarily building their bodies with the best ingredients. And he's hopefully going to continue with just strong diet, and also just have a great sense of gratitude for everything that he's gone through. And I always joke, like, when it comes to writing like the hardship essay to get into college, like this will be a great college essay.
I love that. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on here, sharing your story, being so vulnerable, showing up today, and giving such great advice to someone out there who is maybe going through the exact same thing that you started 3 years ago. I think it was so informative, and I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy to help anybody. And, you know, my website is I think on your website. I'm really just working with like a limited number of clients, but I'm always like happy to order testing or have a consult with people, because I just genuinely want to help others like who are going through this kind of stuff, because it really can feel very, very hopeless and discouraging. But when you meet the right people and you align in your values, like it makes a huge difference in your ability to, you know, find an approach that works. And we all just need to find our people in life and align with them. So thank you so much for having me. And we're totally aligned, given that you own Clean Eats. I already knew that we were aligned in our food values. So thanks for everything that you guys do, and getting ahead of the curve on, you know, having quality food for people when they're eating out.
I love that. Well, go grab that first book before the second one gets launched by the end of this year, or the first draft. But grab that first copy before the second one comes, and we'll check you guys out next time.